Have you ever wondered how fast you can design a world-class product like Airbnb without writing a single line of code? Well, today I'm going to show you exactly how to build Airbnb inside of Lovable, the fastest AI-powered app builder on the market. By the end of this video, you'll see how easy it is to go from an idea to a polished front-end design in minutes. Let's move over to the computer and we'll start building. So now we are going to move things into Lovable, and I'm going to walk through the 3 different ways to get our beautiful Airbnb into Lovable. So, one of the more beautiful apps out there, and which is why I think it's a great reference. There's 3 different techniques I'm going to try. The first is I'm going to take a screenshot of Airbnb and feed it to Lovable and see how well it does. The second thing is I'm going to prompt engineer Airbnb, as in I'm going to describe basically what I see and feed that to Lovable. And the third thing is I'm going to take an Airbnb Figma that I found and use an HTML to code plugin and feed that to Lovable. And one other really quick tip before I start, a great reference for being able to build beautiful designs right into your Lovable app is using 21stDev. They have a great library of components. If you go down here, buttons, search, all these different things that you can copy and paste right into Lovable. And Lovable has done a great job of implementing that really well. So you can see, I was just playing around with it earlier. I found this search, let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, so I found this here, and all I did was I clicked open component, and I copied the prompt, and I just pasted it right into Lovable. As you can see, literally that's all I've done here. This is just the prompt it gave me. And you can see that he created this beautiful design, which I was really impressed by. So I would highly recommend that you use 21stDev and use that for components that when you need them. But let's get back to what we're doing here, which is our Airbnb. So the first strategy I'm going to try is going to be screenshotting this. And so I'm going to use my tool here, and we'll take a screenshot. And I'm going to copy this image. We'll create a new project in Lovable. I'm going to paste this in here. And I'm going to give it like a really brief description, just to give it some context. So I'm going to say, I want to rebuild Airbnb, reference this image, and copy the design exactly. Pixel-pefect. So let's see, this is a very broad explanation, but I want to see like how well it does just with an image and a really basic prompt. So I'm going to feed this and we'll give it a second. Actually, while this is going on in the background, I'm going to start another one. We'll let this cook. And for this one, I'm going to, instead of taking the screenshot and feeding it right to Lovable, I'm going to first go into ChatGPT and I'm going to say, create a prompt for this screen, the UI, that I can feed to Lovable to replicate this exactly. Let's see. So I'm going to give this. Okay, and then you can see we have a prompt here that's starting to come together nicely. I think I'm going to ask it to give a little bit more context on the UI. So I'm going to say, add in more details around the UI styling. Okay, cool. So I'm going to copy all this and we're going to create a new project. This time I'm not going to give it the image and see just how well it does. So we will paste this in here. So now we got 2 cooking. We'll see how this one's doing. So you can see Lovable is generating a bunch of different images. It looks like to make sure that the screen actually has some kind of filler content. It's adding in the logos. It's really trying to break up the design styling. It's picking up on the colors as well and the typography, so this is great. We've given it a long prompt, essentially breaking down what each part of the page should look like. We've given it colors, we've given it the fonts, the pixels, the padding. So we'll see how this does. And it looks like we just got our first one done here. So this is looking good. Let me preview this full screen. Okay, so obviously logo, that's something that you could easily fix. Something that I'm slightly noticing is that it's not fully centered on the page. You can see this is off to the left a bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add on to it a bit. I'm going to screenshot this calendar here. I'm also going to screenshot the number of people and all that stuff. And I'm going to feed this into it and tell it to add it both. So we'll screenshot this first. We'll say add in these two components into the search. So we'll copy this one and we'll copy this one and let these cook. Okay, so there's our second one now. This is the one where we use the prompt from ChatGPT. This one I would say is definitely less accurate. You can see that some of the styling is not great because it really wasn't able to capture some of those fine details that the image is able to capture. And it doesn't seem like the hovers are as accurate. So yeah, this one is definitely less successful. But still, nonetheless, if you want to be like really exact with certain things, this is when the prompting strategy in ChatGPT becomes super valuable. And then the last thing I'm going to do while we let all these cook is I'm going to open up Figma here. And I found this this community Airbnb mockup essentially. So if you go to the community tab on Figma, you're able to kind of like search up different things that people made, usually if they're for free. So this is a really also great asset to leverage when you're building. And what I've also done here is I've gotten a plugin called Figma to code. So I'm going to take this here, excuse me, and this will help us kind of be really exact while we're building. So, let's say I wanted to recreate this search bar here. I'm going to copy this here, and basically this will give us the HTML that is used in here. So I'm gonna go paste. Okay. We'll say build. Actually, no, we'll just give it this. I'm just curious how this does. Oh, here we go. So this was working while we were in the background. I didn't realize it was finished. So this is really good. I mean, this is really impressive just from the screenshot. It also has the right functionality built in to make this work. Doesn't seem like I didn't give any screenshots here, but even the way that some of the details and some of the shadow here is really accurate. And you can see even this stuff. This is very good. So just from screenshots, I was able to, I would say this is probably like an 70 to 80% replica of Airbnb. And again, this took me literally 30 seconds, not even. And we can probably even get this better. So we'll continue to work on this a bit. In the meanwhile, we're seeing this guy cook here. So this one is just seeing how accurate we can get the nav bar to look just based on copying the code that we have in the Figma. Now, obviously, I'm just showing one kind of component, but the idea with this is that if you want to be super specific with certain things, you can kind of go one by one and add them in rather than having to, try to prompt it. You can just literally give it the code of these particular components and it should save you some time. And if you have your own Figma file, that's even better. Okay, so let's see what we came up with here. Okay, so it kind of got it. Actually, this is pretty good with the shadow here. I like how it implemented that. Now again, this is just from the code, but you can see that it was able to definitely get the general idea. It's interesting that it assumed Airbnb. Maybe, I don't know where it would have got that from, which is kind of interesting. So we've seen kind of all different strategies and what works best for what kind of different use cases. So now what I want to do is I'm going to combine all three of them into what I would say is the perfect strategy for building on Lovable. This time, I'm going to feed it all three of these screenshots. So we give it as much data as possible on this one. Then I'm going to say, actually, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to take our original prompt that was used here and we're going to paste this in. This time I'm going to also tell it have all the same hovers states and front-end abilities. This is pretty general, but I'm just curious to see what we can do on this. And yeah, we will let this cook here. So this should be like the best of both worlds. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use both the ChatGPT strategy and also the Figma code strategy to narrow this down even more. This is something else we could probably utilize as well. Taking things like the date pickers, if you need it, you can get exactly looking like this using the 21 first dev components. Okay, so if you compare this to the one that we originally had with just the one screenshot, it's pretty similar. I mean, one thing that stands out is the cards here changed. You can see this one actually followed the original screenshot a lot better because they were smaller. This one has some bit of hovering issues as well, it looks like. Also, the search bar here feels like the padding is a bit longer in height, in width, sorry. And you can see it kind of resembles Airbnb. It's a bit thicker. And you can open this up. I feel like it's a little more similar, but it's pretty similar ultimately between the two. Now, obviously, this really struggled with the icons. Just kind of left them blank, it seemed, which is fair. There's kind of some issue going on here with some of the lines. When you compare this, also the hearts actually worked here, which is pretty cool. But this doesn't actually rotate. So I think this is like an interesting kind of lesson. And I guess kind of one of the things that I see people mess up on a lot when it comes to AI and Lovable in general is sometimes less is more. When you just give it one screenshot and kind of say, hey, reference this and use the Airbnb style. Now, I think Airbnb may particularly be a slightly biased use case because it's so well documented, and I'm sure that it's probably pulling from maybe sources and obviously the site itself. But you can see that when you kind of give it more space to create it, it actually does a better job on the initial screenshot. Which is kind of like, which isn't surprising to me. If I were to actually go build, I tend to start with a pretty simple screenshot because it tends to set the base really nicely. That's a cool little experiment that we just ran. I'm going to actually build off this version as I do think it is slightly better. And clearly, adding the extra screenshots did not really help here. Okay, cool. So I'm going to work off this one here. This is the one that we used with the original image. Okay, so we have our Airbnb designed here. Now we need to actually make it look and work like Airbnb. So we have a couple things going. This is looking cool and it's working at the hovers. But now we actually need to fix a few things. Now I'm not going to make it perfect for the sake of time, but we're going to make it better. So I'm just going to grab Airbnb logo. Actually, what I want to do instead, I'll just grab it right from here. So let's export this here and we'll make it a little higher quality. And we'll call this Airbnb logo. We'll save this here. I'm going to come into Lovable and I'm going to use the edit tool. And I'm going to highlight this div right here. And I'm going to say to update this to Airbnb logo. Actually, I can do this here. Update. Okay, and then we'll grab the image here. Cool, so now it's going to start uploading and replacing this. While this is going, I'm probably not going to bother with these three things just because there's custom icons. I'm sure you get the point. You would just go through the same process of changing that. But we'll let this update here. Awesome, so now we have the logo has been updated. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to center this stuff. So I'm going to tell center horizontally on the page. Currently, it's more to the left. While this is cooking, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be able to pull this up on the live URL. I think I need to publish this. Yeah, give this a second. Okay, awesome. So refresh this here. Okay, cool. So this will just allow me to test it a little bit easier while we're running through this. You can see now it actually is centered though. Though an issue is that the image here doesn't seem to be displaying. I'm not sure if this is a cache issue or what. We're going to tell it lovable. Airbnb logo isn't displaying on preview mode. Just shows a empty file. Sometimes this happens when you actually give it an image to use. It could save the file a bit weird. I'll publish this here. See if this fixed it. Perfect. Okay, so let's work on. This is all good. I see there's some padding issues here. The hovers are pretty good. Destination. I think this would be cool to make this more similar to how this is working right now. So I'm going to screenshot this here. We're going to add this in. Another thing is the search bar. If we really want to be exact with it, if you take a look at the difference here. Some slight differences. Nothing drastic. Padding's a little bit more in here. Same with here. It's not a perfect. Obviously the hovers are a little bit bigger than they should be. There's no hover on the where for some reason. Add in the recent search and suggested components for the where search. Okay. And I hope you're seeing, guys, that this is really as straightforward as it looks. I'm literally just going and taking references from Airbnb. And you can do this obviously with your own designs too. You can see that you can export images right from Figma as well. So if I wanted to, I could export this entire image as a screen, which I will do just to kind of show, since we need to build out the listing page anyways. So let me grab this here. Save this. This is a big file, so we'll see how well that handles. While this is going, I'll just let it upload. Let's see. So we'll say when user clicks on a listing. Okay, so let's see if this also updated here. Okay, this is pretty good. Now it's not exact. Obviously some of the colorings is a bit different, but I would say that it's pretty solid. So we're gonna take that. So far we have this. Obviously some of the issues with this calendar here, and some of the buttons on hover and stuff. For the most part, these are pretty minor things, but we can go ahead and fix some of them. So let's see how this goes. So this seemed like it added it. So I'm going to refresh this here, and we'll click into it, and there we go. So as you can see, it did a pretty great job. Also got the scroll part here right, which is really great. Some small differences, obviously, if we want to be really nitpicky. Maybe this calendar is a bit big, but for the most part, quite impressive. Let's tell this to hide the heart button when there is not enough space and it collides with the guest favorite tag. Okay, cool. So now, there's a few things I want to do to kind of finish this off here. I also want to see if I can make this image here slightly more accurate. I could just probably pull this image. Let's see if we can, I'm going to give this, make this a bit better. I want to update this div here. Update this div and the image on the right of it to match this design closer. Now sometimes just giving it the image is enough just for it to really refine it and really focus in on it, because obviously when you first give the image of the entire screen, it's hard for it to focus on some of those more niche details, if you will. Okay, that looks kind of better. Didn't really do what we were hoping for. Let me give it even more specific. We'll go to the edit mode again here. We'll say, make this look like a deck of cards, deck of images. Okay, we just need to tell it to add white borders around each of the images. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay. Good enough. we'll take it for now. So the last thing I want to do here is create a loading animation when you click search. So I'm going to open this up and we'll say copy this prompt and we'll take this into Lovable. And I'm going to say when the user presses the search button, show this loading state for 5 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to paste this in. I'm curious to see how well it does the animation. We've added framer motion, we've told it, so we'll see how well this does. Okay, let's see if this works. Holy shit. That is sick. Well, I gotta say, I've impressed myself on this one. About the 15 minutes it took me. This is pretty impressive. Now, obviously, people in the comments are gonna be like, oh, you didn't build Airbnb. Yeah, I know. This is just the front end, but you have to give it to the product that like this looks and feels pretty similar to Airbnb. Now, obviously, if we could go more in detail with the icons and all that stuff, but I think given what it is, it's pretty impressive, the level of detail that we've been able to land here. I hope this was informative. I hope that you were able to take something out of this. So yeah, I will do more videos like this if you enjoy them. So please drop a like, please subscribe, and leave a comment. And I push you to create your own apps and tag me on Twitter or post a link in it in the comments here. And I want to see what you built. I want to see what you're able to use. We're going to be coming out with our own components library soon. And so we're excited to kind of release our own version of 21st Dev and come up with something even cooler. So with all that, I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.